Oh, Jen and Jill, welcome to the Common Podcast. So grateful to have you guys here today. Thanks for being with us.
So excited to be here.
Really thrilled. We had you on our podcast and we thought it was just one of the best. So it feels like an honor to be here.
We very much enjoyed it. So we're excited to be speaking with you more.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm so excited for you guys listening to learn from Jen and Jill because we just had a really cool conversation on their podcast. It's called Frugal Friends. And I'll link it for you guys, all about how our nervous system can impact the decisions that we make around money and just how we relate to money. And now I kind of want to do the same thing, but I want to have them teach because so often when, you guys come to me and you're like, man, I need help. I'm feeling really dysregulated. There's like different categories or buckets, I think, that cause the most stress generally, right? It's like our health and our relationships and our finances is a really big one too. So I'm believing that you guys are going to walk away with some really helpful, timely tools and like mindset stuff that you can take with you through this holiday season and then into the new year with like really good habits going forward. Can you guys just tell a little bit about like your story? I know your podcast is huge and people may have already been listening to you, but like how you got to this place of teaching about what you teach about. And then I want to jump in.
Yeah. So I was originally a finance writer and I met Jill and her husband, Eric, while they were living in an RV to save money on housing. And we just like instantly connected because we were both interested in how to make the most of our resources because money was not one of our highest resources. And fast forward, I said I didn't want to start a podcast. And Jill's husband, Eric, said, you should start a podcast. And so, of course, we started a podcast. And because that's what you do. Like when you're friends, this was 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was like, I'm not going to be a podcaster, but I'll do a few episodes. I like humor him. And we've haven't missed a week since April 2018. And it really does come from the shared desire to help people steward their resources well, because we know that money is not the only limited resource. It's also time, your physical space, your mental energy, your natural resources. These are all things that in order to manage money holistically, we do have to consider and manage and steward well.
For me, part of the draw, so I have a social work background. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and the mental health piece as it relates to all aspects of our personhood, including our finances, was something that I really wanted to weave into this conversation while also recognizing there was such a gap in approachable personal finance content. Like if you weren't already up on all of the lingo and already came to the table with a lot of questions answered, and now you're just ready to hit the ground running with investing, it felt like, where is there a space for me to ask the questions, even if they're really elementary questions, and still have fun and it not be boring? And so I think having a friendship to be able to explain some of these things, where I found so much help and guidance in just conversations with Jen about typically taboo topics. It's like, we want to open this up to other people to feel comfortable with their questions, to learn with us along the way, and to enjoy community and friendship too.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think you guys are genius at that, like just making it feel approachable. Because everyone comes in with their own money, like history and stories and all these different things, right? I've shared this before on the podcast too, but like 2-3 years ago, I think I was like, all right, I'm like a big girl now. I have like my own law practice. I'm going to hire my first like financial advisor. And I asked my accountant, and I hire this man that I've never met before. And we get on a Zoom. This guy is like in his, I don't know, his 70s or something, but he's like in a full suit. I had a legit panic attack on the call with him. He was asking me questions. I could not even speak. It was so embarrassing. And then afterward, I'm like, wow, like all my money junk just like came straight to the forefront and was like, I just had to deal with it. And it was just, enlightening, I guess, maybe, of like how much stuff I still had around money that required like healing and rewiring and rethinking. But to do it with someone like you guys would have been so different than to do it with, who I ended up doing it with. So I'm ready to talk about it today. Okay, so let's start here. For women listening who are maybe they've like wanted to be more frugal, or they've like wanted to be consistent with a budget for so long, and maybe they've tried and it just hasn't worked. I think there's an initial response sometimes to even like the word frugal that's just like, like that's going to be so restrictive. It just doesn't work for me. I'm bad at that, or whatever our stories are. But you guys talk about it differently. Can you let's just start with that word, I guess, frugal. I mean, it's in the name of your podcast. Like, what does that mean to you guys, and why should we not be so scared of it? And then let's talk about it.
We are on a bit of a rampage to reclaim this word because it does have such a negative connotation, and we can associate it with being cheap and all of the practices that can go along with that. My grandmother did wash out plastic bags and really pinched pennies, and my grandfather would just go to CVS and buy a ton of junk just because it was on sale. And I think this can be our understanding of frugality, is that we're just clipping coupons, we're buying stuff, even if we don't need it, just because it's inexpensive, and trying to fit it into our lives. And we are describing frugality as not that. We don't even use the word cheap. It's a dirty C word that we don't like, but rather saying that there is a practice of frugality that we can carry with us through our entire lives, regardless of our income, that represents good stewardship of all of our resources. So that includes our finances, but it's also our emotional, mental, relational, physical resources, natural resources, our environments. There's so many things that we engage with on a regular basis, both internally and externally, that we make decisions around. And we can be more mindful about those decisions and experience greater benefit in the ways in which we engage and consume. That is much more joyful, a whole lot more peaceful, freedom-oriented, flexible than kind of the deprivation that is typically associated with being frugal or being cheap.
Yeah, we say frugality is not wanting less or trying to shame yourself into wanting less, rather, but to want different, and really to just want better quality.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, and I think it's so true. And I was kind of chuckling when you were talking about your grandmother washing out plastic bags. I remember this, it was like 5-10 years ago, but my law partner at the time, I went to her house in Miami, and there was like a full couch in her bathroom, in her parents' bathroom. I was like, what is going on here? And she's like, yeah, they saw it for sale at a garage sale, and it was such a good price they couldn't pass it up. And their house was just full of this random stuff because they got it on sale. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I've always associated with frugality.
It's
I'm
such a good example. Yeah, you will fit things into your life because they're cheap, rather than look at, what do I want to be inviting into this space? What's life-giving to me? I don't know if a couch in the bathroom
your
is
physical spaces, your home, your office, your car, these are finite spaces. You only own so much space that is yours. So be a good steward of it. So not just your financial resources. We love getting a good deal, but not at the expense of our other resources.
So good. Okay, so let's talk about it, because this is coming out in the middle of the holiday frenzy. Tell me where we start, because I would assume that before we even have a conversation about holiday budget, there's probably a precursor to that about what's actually important. What does our family value? I'm not sure, but I would love to hear how you guys teach about maybe these conversations, evaluating big picture before we talk about figuring out how we're going to steward our resources well, especially when it comes to the holidays, which can just be a time of rampant spending.
Yeah. If you're going to want different and want better, you have to define what better is.
Okay.
And for us, we just call those your values, your highest values, which can also feel daunting. There's a lot of things you can value. And sometimes when you start out, it's going to seem like you value everything. But we like to start with a kind of a core 4, which is 80% of the time what most people value most highly.
Okay.
And those tend to be family, friends, faith, and fulfilling work. And so we came to those 4 based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a triangle with 5 levels. First 2 levels are your physiological needs, which is where a lot of personal finance podcasts tend to end.
Yeah.
They say these are the things you need, and that's it. In reality, our motivations go far deeper, because if that was true, none of us would have money issues. None of us would have spending problems or impulse spending problems, right? We just know that that's not the case. There are higher needs that our brains will pursue, even if those physiological needs haven't been met 100%. Like, of course, there's a difference between being hungry and not knowing where your next meal is coming from. But if you do know that, then you will start to pursue these higher needs, even if your physiological needs aren't met 100%. And that's right there when we don't realize where some poor spending decisions can be made. But so above your physiological needs, you've got your psychological needs, your belonging, relationships, friends, family. And then above that is kind of like your self needs, your self-esteem, confidence. And then above that is self-actualization. So the feeling that you're living into your potential, like the reason that you're on this earth, you're fulfilling it. You're being able to innovate, get creative, and contribute in places where you feel uniquely able to contribute. It's not like this woo-woo finding your inner peace sort of thing, right? It's a very practical aspect of need. So within these 4 F's, we love the F words. You can find most of these needs, and anything that doesn't fall in there, you can just refer back to the hierarchy and usually find it there.
Okay.
Most of our spending decisions, especially impulse, are us trying to get to one of these needs, but trying to spend on something because we're being told that that's the solution. We're being marketed that our need is going to be met.
Yep.
But in reality, we're buying a solution that can't be bought. And so that really ramps up around the holidays, because nowhere else, no other time of the year are we so focused on family, friendships, connections, even like connections at work. And if you have a faith practice, they are all so heightened, and they are used in every tiny bit of marketing for every product and service imaginable. So when you know what you are actually getting at, then you're more equipped to make the decision to say yes or no to something. But when we don't realize what we're actually getting at, it's a lot easier to spend money on stuff that you didn't really want.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. So good. So literally yesterday I was on a coaching call, and I was going with a client through, she was making this list of like, I was having her brainstorm this prompt of like, wouldn't it be nice if, and then she was like giving me all these things, and she was letting herself dream. And one of her things that she said was like, wouldn't it be nice if I could just buy every Christmas gift that I wanted for everyone that I love without having to worry about my budget. And as we were going through it, I brought up a list of needs that we all have, like a needs inventory. And we were matching like her daydream with what the unmet need is there. And that's exactly it. Like when she got to that one, it was a need for connection. And I was like, wow, that's so fascinating. But you're so right. If we don't take the time to look at it, then we try to meet these needs with all of these, maybe not all, but like superficial things or things that we have to buy, when there might be other ways to meet that need, right? That wouldn't have such an impact on our bottom line. And I think that's probably true around the holidays. Yes. But like always, right? It's like everything we do is in service of an unmet need. And when we can get curious about that, I would assume that has a big impact on how we manage our finances.
Yeah. And like Jen was mentioning, marketers know this and they will prey upon our typical way of wanting to spend to solve our problems. That if we want connection, belonging, esteem, how can they sell us a product that's going to promise those things? And whether consciously or subconsciously, we can believe that. We can believe that if I get all of the gifts on this Christmas list, then I'll have the connection that I'm looking for. And she may not have even connected those dots exactly, but that's what you're saying was kind of there for her. We've talked with other people too. A woman recently was saying how when she dug into her most recent impulse purchase of a cute dress that she saw online through Instagram, what it really was both belonging and esteem, that these people who were wearing this dress, they looked so confident. They were a part of this group where they were all kind of wearing matching things, and she wanted in on that and bought the dress believing that this is what it's actually going to get me. And so when we can kind of create these pauses and slow ourselves down a little bit more to realize, what is my purchase or my desire to buy this thing actually connected to? What do I think this is going to get for me? And is there a better way to solve for that problem that doesn't require me to spend money? If it is connection, could I just pick up the phone and call this person? Could I write them an encouraging letter? Could I have them over for a cup of tea or a potluck? If it's esteem that I'm looking for, is there something that I can do that I know that I'm good at, engage in a hobby that I enjoy, or maybe even try something new and allow myself to experience learning something and getting good at something new, to exercise my creativity. So it's not the repulsion or deprivation of things. It's actually finding ways to meet the need in a much more congruent way to the need.
Yeah, that's so good. And as I'm sitting here, I can think of all these things that I've bought people with this like grand imagination of how they're going to receive it and like what Christmas morning is going to look like. And then they like throw it aside, or they don't like it, or they don't care. And I'm like, why I just like wasted so much money on all this crap.
Yeah. And the marketing and the products and the services themselves aren't malicious.
Right.
It's really, we just want to identify, we want to be better equipped to make those decisions confidently and know, like, if I'm giving a gift, I'm actually giving that usually for myself. I am giving somebody a gift for myself. And just being okay with that. Like, I think we try to rationalize a lot of our purchases as needs. Like, I need to get my kids gifts, so many gifts for Christmas to be good. Or I need this thing because it will improve my life. And in reality, it's a want. And that's okay. I think we think wanting things is shameful or arrogant or irresponsible. But when we realize that the needs that we have are so few and the wants we have are far greater, and that's okay. It's empowering to want. It's empowering to want better. And when we recognize that, we can be very discerning with the wants that we acquire.
Yeah.
And we can feel less guilt about wanting them and acquiring them.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the empowerment and the want, because I think you're right. It's to want something means that I'm okay without it. And that's a really empowering place to make decisions from. Okay, so let's talk. I love that invitation to like, hey, let's take a moment to pause. Let's look beneath the surface a little bit. What might be driving this? Are there other ways we can meet this need? And then if we go forward and we're like, yes, we still want to give gifts for Christmas. Talk to me a little bit about what might be a really wise way to start approaching the holiday shopping, or if you're like in the middle of the holiday shopping, to just be like doing a little pause, gut check, and being like, okay, are we on track here with something that feels like it serves our family really well?
The first might be to decide you're enough.
Okay.
Like, just really off the bat, define what enough is for you.
Okay.
And I would ask, sometimes I just ask my son, he's 5 years old. I ask him what his enough is, because sometimes what my enough is, what I think like is enough for him, is even more than what he thinks. And so if I'll ask him, like, how many presents do you want on Christmas? And he'll tell me like 5, because I'm 5. And I'm like, okay. And we didn't say how big they have to be, but we've defined enough.
Yeah.
And there we go. So it's a start, and it can help when you're at the end of it. You usually are impulse, sailed or stressed, or even from joy. A lot of us shop out of tradition around the holidays, and we always make a couple more impulse buys than we had planned. And when you start with your enough in mind, then you can say no to some more of those impulse buys.
That's good.
One of the ways that I like describing this is defining our parameters. So that can include utilizing reality as far as how much money do we have to spend on some of these discretionary things around the holidays. How much did I spend last year? Was that reasonable? Were there things that I feel good about having spent on? And were there things that if I can remember back, I don't want to do that one again. You know what? I didn't actually have to spend there. So even looking back can be really informative for the choices that we'll make this year. And we've also talked about having 2 different lists, both the list of the things that we want to do and we think would be really fun and we have enjoyed in the past, as well as a list of things that are going to be really easy to say no to, things that aren't life-giving to me, I haven't enjoyed in the past, we don't need to be buying, doing. And some of that might then need to require conversations about some of these boundaries, the what is and isn't okay if it involves other people. And maybe we're not going to exchange gifts with this group this year, or we're not going to travel to that place, or we're not going to engage in this activity. Again, not for the sake of deprivation, but for the better yeses that are actually more aimed at the things that we want this year. And to recognize that these parameters aren't overwhelmingly restrictive, but they can create the context for our creativity, that this is where we can define the area in which we can play and we can problem solve in different ways, and we can choose differently and maybe learn more things, new things about ourselves, about our families, about our relationships that we wouldn't have known if we had just thrown money at it.
Oh, that's so good. So there's so many things in that. I think one, it's that reminder of like every yes is like a no to something else, right? So it's like kind of counting the costs there that we might not see at first glance. And then the other part is this really an invitation for us to be creative, right? And like think outside of the box in the ways in which we connect and spend our time and the boundaries we set. And not, my family, we've talked about this, but we just moved cross country. And part of the gift in that was that my husband and I were like feeling this call to rethink everything. Like I closed my law firm. We left the ministry that we were running there. We moved here. We homeschool our kids now. But it's like, I think when we have these big moments, like the holidays, for example, it's such an opportunity to be like, we don't just have to do what everyone else is doing or what we have done for the last like 10 years. Let's sit down and like take a look. And I love your invitation to be like, does that actually serve us? Do we actually need to exchange the gifts here, do all the things we've always done? Or do we want to see how it feels to do something different this year? And I think that's a really courageous thing to do. But I think that's how we find like these new ways of being that are just like, oh my gosh, I was missing that for so long. This is so much better.
Yeah. This year I set a parameter for myself of not buying any more decor. Use what I have on hand. And my husband and I decorated this last weekend, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. All of our decor fits into one box. And we don't live in a massive home, but it feels so festive.
Awesome.
And now we've got money that we can put towards better food, even better eating. So we will spend money on other things, but I did not need to purchase more for it to feel festive and warm and enjoyable. I had what I needed.
Yep.
Or wanted.
Right. Yeah. So that's for the holidays. As a new year and we kind of like prepare and it's this fresh start and all these New Year's resolutions, I'd love to hear from you guys what you think, maybe like either the number one thing that women are doing wrong that they could kind of remedy in the new year, or like something that you think is like, hey, this is something that I think you guys could put into practice that's going to have massive ROI on your budget as we go forward, or how you steward your finances in this new year.
Yeah, the biggest mistake I see people make is starting with a budget.
Okay.
Honestly, that is the biggest mistake people make. And I love a budget, but a budget is a plan. And you have to know how to make a strategic plan that's right for you in the first place. A lot of people are making plans that aren't right for them in their season. So that's the first mistake. And you're going to make that mistake if you don't start with looking at your past spending and your current spending behaviors. So instead of starting with a budget, which is a plan, start with the skills that you need to be able to execute the plan properly. And so that comes with knowing your spending habits. Usually, the two parts of a budget are your income and your expenses. Well, we can start to work on our income. We should always be working on our income if we feel that that's not enough, but you're not going to change that overnight. What you can change overnight are your expenses. So we need to take a look at our past expenses, look at what our habits are telling us, our spending habits are telling us, and look at our impulse spending, what that's telling us, and figure out the actions to change so that we can make a good spending plan, make a good budget, and actually stick to it.
I would add to that, I think one of the biggest lies we can believe is that our spending plan then needs to look a specific way, that what is good money management is a set rule of things and way of operating and behaving and engaging with money. And it's just not accurate. While there are good aims, there are better aims than others. There's not any one size fits all in this space. There are decisions that we could make, that I personally, Jill, could make, that make sense for me and my husband as a married couple, homeowners with no kids, that is different from Jen and her husband who have kids. There's going to be nuances there. And I think that our finances and our spending decisions and behaviors around money need to be able to reflect those nuances. And so with that needs to come a lot of grace for ourselves, permission, flexibility, honoring of our season, a willingness to maybe even pay for the convenience if it's what makes sense for you right now and allows you that time with your family that is really important right now. So the ability to shift around what that spending plan looks like and not think that it needs to be this certain way. It should look like this, but we have the authority who know ourselves best to be able to make those decisions informed, with a growing understanding of ourselves and good practices, but it's not going to look the same for everybody.
I love that reminder, and just the permission that's in there, because that feels really doable, right? Like that feels really practical. It doesn't feel as restrictive as you might think about a budget otherwise. You guys have a book coming out in just a couple of weeks. You have it behind you here. I'm so excited for you. Tell everyone when it comes out, and then tell them a little bit just about the book and what they'll learn reading it, why they should pick it up.
Love it. Yeah. Thank you so much for highlighting this. It feels like our love letter to our listeners and really compiles everything that we've learned along the way, experienced, and really, it's called Buy What You Love Without Going Broke, and it comes out January 7th. You can get it wherever you get books or
Right now,
buywhatyoulovebook.com.
today, this second.
Yes. And it really is a values-based spending guide, kind of these steps that we can be taking in our behaviors, in our actions, in our habits to be able to implement on a spending plan. So talking about the ways to identify what is it that we truly love? How do we get at those things? How can we say no to the stuff that, actually is just more peripheral? I don't actually need to be spending on that. That's easy no's. How do we cut those things out? How do we make our money more efficient? And how can we then curate both our internal and external environments to be able to support this good skill of spending for the long term and regardless of the seasons of life that we may find ourselves in?
Yeah, and we really wrote it for the woman who has made the perfect budget month after month and keeps overspending it and is saying, how am I breaking the budget I made? This is my income, my spending. Why is my body doing something while my brain says no? And so that is who we wrote this book for, is, once you've regulated your nervous system, this is how you help your brain keep making those intentional decisions.
Yeah, I love that. Such a relationship back and forth. So for those of you who are looking for a really practical approach to getting, if that's been a cause, right, of stress for you, pick it up, because I think that's going to be so helpful. I'm so grateful for the work you guys are doing in this space, from a fellow woman wanting to get just a greater understanding of her finances and feel empowered in that space and steward, like you're saying, all of my limited resources well. I'm just so grateful for, the lessons that you're offering and the teaching and the experience in a way that feels really empowering and practical. So thank you for writing it. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I can't wait for all of our listeners to pick it up and read it. Thanks for being with us today.
No.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Yeah,
what an
thank
honor.
You.
All right, we're going to link the book. We're going to link the podcast. Where else can people continue to learn from you and hear from you?
Buywhatyoulovebook.com. You can choose your favorite retailer to get the book from. And
Perfect.
In the meantime, it comes out, it'll be at your door in a few weeks. But in the meantime, Frugal Friends Podcast, wherever you're listening to this show.
All right, awesome. Thanks again. Take care.